Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Montague here, and in this video we are going to be covering Unit 4, Lesson 8, the Conditionals Make. We have finished all of the conditionals practice, so now we are going to apply that to creating a working app for this museum ticket generator here in Lesson 8. So with these make lessons, again, usually you get a user interface. The first bubble is always the working version of the app that you can explore without seeing the code, of course. And then when we get to bubble 2, that will be where we can actually start working on the coding portion of this app. So let's go ahead and look at this museum ticket generator and what it does. So it tells us specifically to make different combinations of inputs to test this app out. So let's go ahead and run it. And it says to make a ticket for the weekend and see how much it costs. So I'm going to say Saturday. We can keep our age at 5. We're going to create a ticket. So if I'm 5 years old on a Saturday, my price is $10. I am going to look at Monday, see how that compares. All right, so if I'm 5 years old on a Monday going to this museum, it's just $5. All right, so that solves this second bullet point here, a ticket for the weekday, Monday through Friday, with someone 18 or younger. All right, so obviously they're getting some kind of child discount. And then, excuse me, we also want to try the discount code free Friday on a Friday. So let's change it to Friday. We'll put in the discount code free Friday, and it changes our price to $0. Really quickly, let's go ahead and select Monday and look at what the cost would be for somebody who's over 18. All right, so we get a $10 ticket on a Monday, and on a Saturday, it's still $10. So there's no discount for adults any day of the week, apparently, unless we get that free Friday. All right. So the variables that we need to program this app are obviously going to be, we need to know what day it is. We need to know the age that the person purchasing the ticket is. And then we also need to potentially know if there's a discount code. So there's at least 3 variables that we're going to need here. And the question 2 here is, where does this app use conditionals, if statements? So I think that's likely going to be in whatever we come up with for the price of the ticket, which is another variable we'll probably need that I didn't mention. All right. So I'm probably going to have some sort of conditional that determines what my ticket price is going to be based on the day of the week and the age and any discount code that I enter. So we will have at least 4 variables, day, age, discount code, and price. And then our conditional is likely just going to be determining what that price is. All right, so we've explored a few test cases. We're going to finish up on bubble 1 and continue on to bubble 2, which is where we are actually going to be coding this app to work. All right, so they give us a few comments throughout here and one general on event that we're going to be using. All right, so it says at the top on line 1 to create our variables. So they give us some space to do that here. All right, and then within our calculate button, right, that's the only button on the screen that we can click is this create my ticket button. We need to have it update the variables. We need to check the value of the variables to decide which price to set. So this line 10 here, deciding what price to set, right? That should clue us in that we need a conditional statement to decide something for us. All right, and then we are going to create the text for the ticket and then set the text on the screen. All right, so we have comments in here telling us exactly what we need to do. If you look at the instructions, we also have a checklist rubric, so you can make sure that you have all of the things that you need to make sure that you are getting full points on this one. All right, so let's jump into this actual coding, starting with creating our variables. All right, so we already discussed that we need to have at least 4 variables, right? We need a day variable, an age variable, a discount code variable, and a price variable. So let's go ahead and put all of those variables in here. We are going to use the declare a variable block. Initially, we're not going to have any of these variables set to a value, as we are going to be setting those values a little bit later on in the program once we get into our on event. So we need a variable for day, a variable for age, a variable for discount code, and a variable for price. All right, so we've got our 4 variables in there and created. All right, so then we're going to need to update our variables. So we need to get the values of these things to update. We only actually have 3 of these that need to be updated in this section, because the price variable is going to be set in the conditional statement with our next section. All right, so we are going to just worry about right now updating our day, age, and discount code variables. So we're going to pull in that assign a variable block 3 times for our, for our day, age, and discount code. All right, so our day, our age, and our discount code. And these are going to be equal to either a get text or a get number, so we can get the information that's entered off of the screen. All right, so for our day, it's going to be our day dropdown. So this is going to be a get text, because of course that is text that is being set on the screen. So we're going to drag in this get text block, and our ID is for the day dropdown. If I can find that. Here we go. Day dropdown. All right, for the age one, our dropdown for the age is all numbers. So this one is going to be a get number. All right, so we need our get number block for our age, and it's going to be set to the age dropdown. And then we have the discount input right here, which is where we get the discount code. And that is, of course, going to be text. We need to be able to pull anything that's input there, whether it's numbers or text. So we're going to go with text. And it is going to be the discount input here. All right, so we have our 3 variables that are being updated to get the information that has been inputted on the screen. All right, next up is where we actually need to worry about our conditional. All right, so we're going to remember as we go through this that we need to look at the most specific condition first. So we're going to go ahead and drag in our conditional block, and I'm going to do 3. Actually, this is probably going to be a 4-tiered conditional. So we'll pull in the 2-tiered one, and we can use our little plus button at the bottom. All right, so we know from our test that we need a price if we have the discount code Free Friday. We have a different price if it's a weekend day, because even if you're under the age of 18, you get the discount on weekdays. But if it's a weekend day, you don't get that discount. So it needs to check, of course, if it's the weekend. We also have if you're a child, so under the age of 18 or younger, you get the price of $5 throughout the week. And then otherwise, the price should just be $10 because that's the adult price that we saw on a weekday or a weekend. It didn't matter which. So we know that we have all of these specific conditions that we need to put in here. All right, so I think the most specific one is if it's a discount code of Free Friday on Friday, right? And that is because it's one specific day and you have to have one specific discount code. So that's going to be the most specific thing first. All right, so we want our discount code for our Boolean expression. Our discount code has to be equal to free, and actually they did all caps on theirs. Okay, so the discount code has to be equal to Free Friday. All right, and however you type this in, whatever discount code is equal to here, that is exactly what has to be typed into this box. So if I were to go over here and put in the discount code Free Friday, but all lowercase, it's not going to catch the discount because it's not technically the right discount code. We will learn a little bit later on in this course how to change things from capitals to lowercases. There is code for that. But for the purposes of this, we're going to do Free Friday in all caps. All right, so it's not enough if we just have the discount code entered. Okay, I got a phone call and I've completely forgotten where I was. So let me just start talking about our discount code Free Friday again. Okay, discount code is equal to Free Friday, right? And we talked about how it has to be exactly all caps Free Friday to count as the discount code. But having the discount code Free Friday is not enough in this case because we also have to make sure that the day of the week that they have selected is Friday. Because, of course, we're not going to apply a Free Friday discount code on a Monday or a Tuesday, right? We need it to be Friday. So we need the discount code to be equal to Friday, but we also need the day to be equal to Friday. Now note how for the day being equal to Friday, I've put Friday with a capital F in my quotation marks. All right, so anything that you have the day being equal to a certain day, it needs to be written, typed, whatever you want to say, exactly how it looks in this drop down for the day of the week. So we see that all of these are just one word with a capital at the beginning. All right, and spelled correctly. So we have to make sure that the day is equal to Friday is exactly the Friday that they have it equal to in here. So if I did an all caps Friday, it wouldn't recognize that that was the day. If I did a lowercase f on Friday, it would not recognize that that was the correct day. All right, it has to have the capital F and be spelled correctly in order for it to pick up the correct day. All right, so I just wanted to cover that. So if we have this discount code and it's also Friday for our Free Friday discount, then we need to set our price to be equal to something. So we're going to go back over to our variables and get our assign a variable block. So we can set our price to be equal to, in this case, it's going to be 0 because on Free Friday we get in for free. We don't have to pay anything. All right, so I'm going to add a couple more tiers onto here because I'm going to need them. Okay, so we have our discount code on Friday being created here. And the other thing that we talked about is making a price for a weekend day or making a price for anybody who is 18 or below. So which of those two things do you think would be most specific? I personally think that the weekend days would be more specific because those only apply to 2 specific days. If the day is anything other than a weekend, that weekend price doesn't apply. And it doesn't matter what my age is, the weekend price needs to apply only if it's Saturday or Sunday. Okay, so that kind of gives you an insight into the Boolean expression that we need. Right, our day needs to either be equal to Saturday or Sunday. All right, so we're going to put in day is equal to Saturday, okay? Or we're going to use an or in this case because it can't be both Saturday and Sunday. It can be one or the other. All right, so our day needs to be Saturday or our day needs to be equal to Sunday. All right, and notice again how I didn't put day is equal to Saturday or Sunday. We have to have day is equal to Saturday or day is equal to Sunday. We have to have the days equal to both times to make sure that the computer is picking up specifically what we mean by this, okay? We can't put it in human terms. It has to be in the correct formatted code here. All right, so our day needs to be equal to Saturday or our day needs to be equal to Sunday. All right, if that's the case, we again are going to do our assign a variable for our price. And our price, if we remember correctly from our test, was $10 on the weekend. And that didn't matter if you were an adult, a senior citizen, a child, whatever. The price was always $10 on a weekend. All right, so then our price is equal to $10. All right, then we have our next tier of the conditional. So that needs to be if our age is 18 or less, right? So this is covering if you're a child, you get the child price on the weekdays. All right, so this is going to deal with our age variable for our Boolean expression, and our age has to be what? Less than or equal to 18, right? Because if I'm any age 0 through 18, I'm going to get this kid price, right? And that's all that we need here, right? Because we've already covered if the day is Saturday or Sunday, it's going to be $10 regardless. So it doesn't matter if our age is 5 on a Saturday or Sunday, it's going to be $10, right? So this time we are going to set our price to be equal to $5, right? Because with our testing, anybody that was below the age of 18 or younger, had a price of $5 on any weekday. All right, so the final tier of our conditional is just going to be the default price. So if none of this stuff evaluates to true, right, then we're going to need some price to default back onto. It can't just be undefined or $0. We need our price to be set to a base price. And the base price generally can be looked at as you're just a normal everyday adult, right? Mostly adults don't get any kind of discounts or anything like that. We just pay full price for things. So our price is going to be equal to our $10 base price, because we remember that on weekdays and weekends, didn't matter what it was, an adult ticket was $10. So that is our base price here of 10. All right, so that should satisfy everything we need on our conditional. We can't test it out quite yet because we do not have anything displaying on the screen. So next we have the comments here that says we need to create the text for the ticket and we need to set the text on the screen. And they have this in two different things, but what I'm actually going to do is combine this into just one line of code. I don't think we need 2 lines of code here to do this. The example that they have provided for teachers through code.org shows it as 2 lines of code with an additional variable. But I'm just going to do it all as one because I don't think that we need a whole other line of code, right? All that we need to do is set the text on the screen, and our text is going to be equal to whatever we tell it to be equal to. All right, so we need a set text, right? You can do this a couple different ways. You can either do a set text where you specify what ID and the text you're setting it to, or you can do a set property. Either way is going to work. If you do a set property, obviously you're going to do whatever the ID is of that prop, and then the property that you're changing is text. I'm just going to go ahead and do a set text here, and I'm going to put it at the very bottom. So this set text is going to create the text for the ticket and set the text on the screen all at the same time, without the need for an additional line of code or an additional variable. All right, so the ID that we are putting our text into is this box right here, which is our ticket output. All right, so our set text is for our ticket output. All right, so we have our ticket output is being set to specific text. All right, but we don't want to set it to text. We want to set it to say what we specifically want it to say. Now, before we move along on this one, I would remind you, we're going to go back to bubble number 1 just to look at this real quick. All right, we want our ticket output to be as close as possible to the ticket output it shows us here. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave my settings as is. All right, so we can see what this ticket output looks like. So it gives us the day that we've selected, it gives us the age that we've selected, and then it finally gives us the price of our ticket. All right, so we have these 3 different variables that we've created essentially being displayed on the screen in a nice way. All right, so I'm going to use the string concatenation that we've talked about in previous videos to make sure that we get our day, the word day with the colon, right, displaying whatever day we've selected. I want our age with the colon word, right, displaying whatever age we've selected. And then I want the price with the colon displaying whatever the price has been set to. All right, so this is going to be quite a few pluses, right, with some line breaks in here. All right, so let's go back to bubble number 2 and get this created here. So it's our last thing we're doing. So at the very bottom, all right, our set text for our, took out my ticket output ID. All right, so our set text for our ticket output is going to be equal to, all right, we remember our first thing was day. All right, so I'm going to put in the word day with a colon and a space. All right, and then added to that, I'm going to call my variable day, right? Because whatever day I've selected from the dropdown is what is set to that variable value. So calling my variable day will just simply display that variable on the screen. All right, so our day text plus our day variable, and then we're going to do another plus because we also need to add in age. All right, but I can't just put it like this, the same way that I did my last one. I need to have a line break between my day and then my age output, right? Because I want each of these pieces of information to show on a different line. So I'm just going to include in these quotation marks for my age, I'm going to use that line break command, which if we remember is \n. All right, so \n gives us that line break, and then it should show us the age. All right, so we have our age text plus, we're again calling our age variable because the age that we have selected should be stored in that age variable. All right, and then finally, we need our price to display. All right, so again, we're going to put in a line break, \n, and we are going to display the word price with a colon and a space. And then finally, I'm going to add my price variable on the end. So it should show whatever price is being stored in my price variable. All right, so this is what it looks like when I click off of it. It puts in those lovely math blocks with the plus signs between. All right, but this is our string concatenation, and it should hopefully display everything nicely on the screen. All right. But that's literally it for the coding for this project. It looks like we should have everything accomplished, right? We have set our day, we've selected our variables. So, wow, what am I even talking about? All right, we've set our variables. All right, we've updated our variables. We checked the value of our variables to determine the price with our conditional statement. And then we have created and set the text of our ticket to display on the screen. All right, so that's everything that we need to. We can go through the checklist just to make doubly sure. Okay, if I expand the checklist and make our instruction panel a little bit bigger, right, we have on events created for all inputs, right? We already had that initially because they had the on event created for us. It's the only one that we can, which is this calculate button to create the ticket. All right, we have variables that are created and appropriately used for all of the information, right? Check. We have a conditional statement that determines the price for all combinations of inputs, right? Check, we did that. The screen correctly displays the day, age, and price of the ticket. We haven't checked that yet, but it should. No errors present in the code, right? We're going to check that here in a second. And then comments are used to correctly explain the purpose and function of all on events and conditional logic. So they do include the comments in here for you of where you need to do all of these specific things. But you might want to go through and add your own comments to be a little bit more specific to how you've coded it. So I typically have a comment on each section of my conditional explaining what that section of the conditional statement does. All right, but I'm not going to put those comments in. I think you're more than capable of understanding what sections of the program are doing and putting in comments so it actually shows exactly what's happening. All right, so you are graded on those comments on these assignments, so make sure you get comments in there specific to what you have done. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and test to make sure that what we have done works. All right. So we have, again, let's just keep our day, Monday, our age 5, and then nothing in the discount code. So when I click on create my ticket here, I should be seeing day, Monday, age 5, and price, if we look at our conditional statement, should be $5. Because here on the third tier of this conditional, or the third section of the conditional, this is where I get the price set for anyone who is a child on any day that's not a Saturday or Sunday, right? So it should be a $5 ticket. Okay, and that is displaying correctly. The only thing that I don't really like about this, how I've got it set, is that the price doesn't have any dollar sign on it. Usually I like to have that just to denote that it's a price. So I'm going to slightly edit my line 33 here. It might be a slightly different line on your program. It's line 33 on mine where I've got my set text for my ticket output. All right, so we're going to look at our price where we have our text for price. And I have the word price with a colon and then a space. And then all I need to do here is add my $sign within my quotation marks here. And then it should display the price with a $sign in front of it. So that's just kind of me being particular. I want it to have that $sign display so we know we're actually seeing a price on here. So we're going to reset, run it, keep these things selected, and create the ticket. All right, and now we see that $sign is in there for our price being $5. All right, so that is the correct price. Let's go ahead and test a couple other options. So if we're still 5 years old, but it's a Saturday when we create my ticket, that should change the price to $10, and it does. All right, if I am 5 years old and it is a Friday and I have the discount code Free Friday, again, all caps, because that's how we put it in the code. All right, when I create my ticket, it should be $0. Let's see really quickly what happens when I don't put all caps in. So Free Friday with just the F's capitalized and create my ticket. That makes the price be $5 because, again, it has not recognized this discount code because it is not exactly typed in the way that the discount code variable has been set to be equal to. So it has to be all caps Free Friday in order for it to register. So let's also go ahead and then just check the price, let's say on a Monday for anyone who's not a child. So we'll just go with the age 29. I can leave the discount code in there. It's not going to affect anything because that's going to be a false Boolean check on that line anyway, so it won't matter that it's there. All right, but anyone who's not a child on a weekday should be a $10 price, and that is what we are getting. All right, so we've ran a few test cases through here, and it does appear that everything is working correctly. If you are in my class and you finish this one before the end of class time, I do want you to look at the activity guide for this project uploaded into Infinite Campus for you. And there are extension ideas on there. So the extension ideas for this one, I believe, are to create a senior citizen price. So obviously we usually in our society have senior citizen discounts at quite a few places. So we want to get a senior citizen discount in there. I believe there is also an extension where you can create a second discount code that could be used, whatever discount code you want it to be. And you would want to code that in there as well. So that might require you to get a couple more tiers into your conditional statement here. But you will want to double check that, those extension ideas, and complete some of those if you have some extra time here at the end of class. But otherwise, this is the base app coded and working. So hopefully you are getting yourself there. If you have any questions, please let me know. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video.